Hello, and welcome back to Awakening to Your Story TV, the place to learn, get inspired, and be supported with heart centered solutions for your everyday life. Today, we are going to talk about shyness. Now, I had a person comment in, which is what inspired this video today, but I know a lot of you who watch feel this sense of longing to belong, right? And feel like you want to be seen and heard and valued and validated. We all do. Am I right? And often when we get into social dynamics, it can feel hard to know how to interact and engage with other people. And we've all been there, whether we're social butterflies or we're shy by nature, whether we're introverts or extroverts. We've all been in a dynamic where we feel like we're shrinking down, right? We feel a little awkward. We feel maybe a little timid. And what happens is often, if you're in that environment, if you're in that social experience, and you don't work on your emotional heart, those social experiences can build up and create even more anxiety and even more worry and fear and awkwardness, right? So, what I'm going to do today is go through some of the emotional tools that I have up in my emotional tool library, which I will link that playlist here. I am also going to link over to the blog that I wrote about this very topic, and it's got all the videos embedded in it so you can just really hone in and kind of do your own emotional homework on this feeling of being shy and wanting to feel more confident in a social dynamic, right? Okay, so 4 of the emotional tools that we're going to talk about today that really will help kind of transform how you feel about yourself and will then help build confidence so you don't have to feel as shy in a social dynamic. And those 4 are mindfulness and mental emotional time travel, your inner voice, your power of choice, and your point of reference. And then I've also added in a 5th video that we're going to talk about that is about building up your communication skills. The first 4 videos are really about that inner work that you have to do for you. And that 5th video, that second part is really about how you express yourself out in that social experience, right? So as we look inward, because we cannot change how people in a social dynamic are, we don't have any control over them. The only thing we have autonomy over is our own heart and being, right? So we are going to first look at mindfulness and this idea of mental emotional time travel. Now, mindfulness means being present in any given moment. And mental emotional time travel means that your mind takes you back and forth on the timeline of your life. And the reason this is so valuable when we're talking about shyness is that so often, if you have had awkward social engagements, you come to the present engagement, the present moment, with this reverberation of what once was, right? So you rewind into the past about how all the other social dynamics made you feel small and how they left you out or how awkward you were. Now you can also fast forward, right? And that is where you let your mind go straight to all of the what ifs. Well, what if they don't accept me? What if they don't like me? What if I feel or do something silly or stupid, right? You're getting jerked around from the past way into the future where you have no power and you have no autonomy over, right? So this tool is really designed to help you show up in any given moment from a mindful, present place, right? And that's why it's the first tool, because it really helps get you to a place where you're in the center and you have the ability to just be in this moment, right? So we're going to talk about a social dynamic. And the example that we're going to use is you walking into a group of people. You're there. No one's necessarily talking to you, No one's excluding you, but you feel like you're on the outside of the conversation and you don't feel like you can interject. You don't feel confident enough to really participate in that dynamic. Okay. So let's put yourself in that example. You're there. And if you are mentally, emotionally time traveling from the past or the future, you have the power to just bring yourself to the present moment, right? Breath is a great way to do that. It helps calm down your nervous system, right? So if you're going back and forth on your timeline and you're creating anxiety or worry or fear or any of those things, you have the power to come back to this present moment. Take some deep breaths. Square breathing is my absolute favorite, where you breathe in 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. And it doesn't have to be anything big. So you can be in that dynamic and be focusing on your breath to help you get into that present moment without anybody even noticing, right? Okay, now we're going to move on to our second tool, which is your inner voice, which understanding this emotional tool is going to be a game changer for kind of everything. Now, again, go back over to the blog, go watch these videos because we go into depth about these tools, and I'm really kind of doing an overview today. Otherwise, this video would be like an hour long. So, the valuable thing about your inner voice is that you come to terms with this idea that this inner narrator, right, this inner voice that's narrating your life, you actually have control over it. It does not have control over you. What a freaking novel idea, right? So this inner voice is either running unchecked or you are actively engaging in it, right? If it's running unchecked, then this is what's happening. It is running and playing according to your negative bias, right? We talk about positive and negative bias a lot when it comes to inner voice because we have these thoughts moving through our head that are either being narrated from a place of possibility, which is that prefrontal cortex higher level thinking, or they're being run from your amygdala, which is that fight, flight, or freeze, right? This survival kind of experience. Now, your inner voice can narrate for one of those two places. And if it's unchecked, it's always going to be running from your amygdala. And if you work to build up a positive bias where you're scanning, right, for what is good and right and possible, then you start to feel like you have a little bit more power. And another really valuable thing to understand about this tool is this superpower that you have called metacognition. I love to talk about the brain and I love to talk about the emotional heart because paired together and understanding those mechanisms within yourselves really shifts your entire life into a place of ultimate possibility and feeling good and creating from that place of joy and hope and, fervor, right? So if you're in this place where you're scanning for what is possible, right? Where the light can come in, what is good and working in your favor, then you're in that higher level prefrontal cortex place in your mind. If you're scanning for all the things that are wrong, all the things that went wrong, all the things that could go wrong, you are in that amygdala part of your brain, right? Your inner voice is narrating from that place of survival. So if you go back to that social dynamic and you are on the outside of this conversation, but you want to be on the inside, if you are allowing your inner voice to narrate from that place of survival, right, from that negative bias, then you're going to get stuck feeling crappy, right? You're going to get stuck feeling like all of the things that are going wrong are what you're focused on. Well, they're not talking to me. They must not like me. They don't, all of the negative things. But with metacognition, you have the power to witness, right? Metacognition is your ability to witness your thoughts and then shift and change those thoughts. right? So if you're in that social dynamic and you feel your inner voice start to narrate according to your negative bias, your job is to activate that inner voice as a tool and go, oh, I see. I see where we're coming from. I want to get to a different place in my brain. I want to get to a different place in my emotional heart. I want to narrate from a place of possibility, right? So again, we go back to the first tool, which is understanding if you're mindful and in your present moment. Then you activate this inner voice from a place of possibility and really understand that you have to check your thoughts when you're in that social dynamic. You may be being shy because your inner narrator is telling you to be small. You may be feeling shy because your inner narrator is telling you to shut down. If your inner narrator is telling you to scan for what's good, what's possible, that you are there, that you can fit in, that you have something valuable to say, that you are part of this dynamic, that you are included, right? Even if you don't necessarily feel it totally in that moment, you can start to believe, right? Belief is huge, that inner narrator, right? So I want you to really think about your power to shift that inner voice, your power to actually choose where you're narrating your situation from. Okay. Again, go watch the full video, go read the blog about it. It is very powerful if you can shift that inner voice to narrate from a place of possibility. Okay. Number 3 is your power of choice. Now, when you understand these two places where thought comes from, right? Your prefrontal cortex, your amygdala, your positive bias, your negative bias, you start to really understand that every thought that you think has a positive and a negative to it, right? And both can be true at the same time. You have a choice to make. Which do you want to focus on? And here's the thing. If you focus on the negative part, which is fine, if you make that choice, that is fine. It's okay. But you always have the possibility to focus on the positive thought, right? We talk about this in depth with the Pina Colada Beach, which is a tool in and of itself. But when we're talking about power of choice as an emotional tool, it's about walking down a path of thought and understanding you have a choice to make. You have autonomy over how you feel by choosing the thoughts that you think. And that's a big deal. That is another game changer, right? So when you're standing in that dynamic, right, and you are with these people and you have made sure that you're present and you've checked in to make sure that your inner narrator is where it's narrating from, right? Like, okay, where is it narrating from? Then you absolutely have the power of choice. You get to choose. Do I want to think according to a thought that's possible, where I feel like I can have what I want? Or do I want to think a thought that is linked to all the suffering that I may have suffered before, or all of the suffering that has to do with that negative bias? You get to choose, right? Now, I want you to really understand that I get it. Often we don't feel like we have a choice. And as you build up these emotional tools and as you really get connected into this place of alignment within yourself and understanding your emotional heart and your brain and how much autonomy you actually have over your story, you start to really understand and feel those choices in the moment. When you're just starting out and learning these tools and this kind of emotional intelligence, it doesn't always feel like you have a choice. And that's okay. every social experience that you have is a new opportunity for you to practice, right? To feel it out. It's not pass or fail. You just get to choose where you want to try and learn and grow for yourself, right? Now, as we go on to the fourth and final tool, I want you to really take into consideration how valuable you are, right? So, our last tool is your point of reference. And the reason I want to talk about your value and your worth for a minute is because so often we just run on autopilot. We don't do the emotional work to make our lives feel good. We are okay with our lives feeling so so. And I want you to know that you are worth more than that. You are valuable and you are worthy just as you are. And you deserve to have your life feel good. And no matter what path you've come from, no matter what your dynamic is in your life, you absolutely have autonomy over your story and how you think and feel, right? So this brings us to point of reference. And point of reference is huge, especially when we're talking about social situations, because we often accidentally hand power over to other people. It happens all the time, every day. And if you understand that you have autonomy over your point of reference, then you can always have the option to come back to your place of alignment. You can take back your power that you may have handed over to other people. Now, let me explain. You are the author of your story. You are the main character who lives it into existence. You are the writer, director, main character of this story that is your life, right? Now, your point of reference as the main character, as the author, as the director, as the writer, as all of these things, your point of reference is designed to be on your own heart, your own being, and your own consciousness, right? All the tools that we've talked about are there to help you get into that place where you're focused on your own consciousness, your conscious awareness, your interaction with your own experience, right? Because we can't control the outside world, right? We only have power to shift and change what is in here. Now, if your point of reference is in here, then you feel full. You are working on that inner alignment. You are moving through and navigating through your life. If positive things come in, you're soaking them in. If negative things come in, you're navigating your way through. And you actually are the one doing the work to figure out how it all fits into your life and serves your story and interacts with who you really are, right? Now, sometimes we want to focus outside of ourselves on other people or on things or on situations to tell us how we feel or to direct us in some way. And when you do that, when you make another person your point of reference, you've lost autonomy, because then how you feel is determined on how that other person shows up, right? If you put it on a thing and you are expecting that thing to be your point of reference, to help you feel good or help you serve those things within you that you're designed to take care of, then what if something happens to that thing, right? Then how you feel is determined on that external thing, that external point of reference. So, what I want to make sure you know and understand with this tool is that when your point of reference is on an external thing, then your focus starts to feel off. you start to feel like your power is getting drained from you, right? So let's go to that social example that we had where you're in a group and you feel like you're emotionally kind of on the outside, you're not engaging. That dynamic, if these people are your point of reference and they're not engaging with you, how does that make you feel, right? How you feel gets determined on whether or not they're showing up or how they're showing up. Is that a positive? Is that going to fulfill your desire not to be shy, your desire to feel included and feel like you're a part of something? Absolutely not. You have to come into that dynamic with your point of reference on your heart, on your story, on your own consciousness. And when you're in that place, you're full. You understand who you are. You feel valuable. You feel worthy. And when you're looking at these people who are doing whatever it is they're doing, their actions don't subtract from you. Game changer. You feel whole and valuable and worthy despite what is going on outside, right? What they are doing and how they are showing up cannot be more valuable to you than how you feel about yourself, right? Your point of reference has to be on your own story, on your own heart. And you have to build up this relationship you have with yourself so that you are okay being your own point of reference. There's power in that, right? So if you're doing this, you get into that social dynamic and you've worked on all those other tools and you are there and you're like, oh, these people aren't engaging with me today. I wonder what's wrong with them, right? I don't know. I feel pretty good. I feel good no matter what's going on here, right? That is going to make you feel confident. No shyness, confident, right? Confident in yourself. Okay, now those are the 4 tools, and that's the inner work that you can do when you're dealing with shyness. Now, on to the external work. Now, when you've done all that work, when you've made sure you're being mindful and present, when you've made sure that your narrator is narrating from a positive bias, when you show up and make your choice to be thinking from that place of possibility, and then you are in that inner alignment, right? And you're stepping into this place where your point of reference is your own heart. Then you come into a dynamic, that social dynamic, feeling not shy, feeling confident in who you are and why you're there and what you have to offer. But having the ability to really expand your power to communicate is a big deal. Now, this video that I'm referencing goes into internal tips and external tips. And those internal tips are be present, know what you really want to say, don't be afraid to ask for what you want or need, understanding, of course, that people might not be able to give it to you, and then know when to say nothing and just be a good listener, right? Those are the the internal things that you can do when you're actually communicating. The external things that you can do when you're communicating are to be interested and curious. This is something my dad taught me early on, and I am always interested and curious about other people. If you are interested and curious about other people and you're listening and engaging and asking questions and showing up with curiosity about what's going on in that social dynamic, it's never going to be awkward, right? You're just going to be curious. You're going to be you're centered, you're in alignment, and you're focused on how fascinating and interesting things are that other people are saying, right? The second one is to hold space with respect and appreciation. So if other people are agitated, it's okay. You're respecting the dynamic, you're respecting yourself, you are showing appreciation for yourself and for other people, right? It kind of calms everything down. And then actively listening is the third one. Actively listening is one of my favorite things that I think is very powerful when you're talking about communicating with other people. This is when you actively make sure that you're listening to what they're saying. So you just give little replies back like, "Oh my gosh, did you see that the other day?" If somebody, let's say somebody is talking and says, "Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I went to the beach and we did this thing." And you go, "Oh my gosh, which beach did you go to?" Right? Like, you are actively listening and participating in a back and forth manner with the things that other people are saying. This creates a dialogue, and it also helps the other person know that you're actually listening to what they're saying, and it keeps you present in that moment, right? Now, the fourth one is to ask engaging questions, which kind of goes hand in glove with the active listening, right? Just stay in that place of curiosity and ask engaging questions about what they're saying. And eventually, when you're in that place of communicating, the conversation will come back around and you can participate and people will ask you the same things, right? It's it's this weaving together of ideas and thoughts, and you have the ability to stay present and engaged and happy and enthusiastic within yourself as you're doing that, right? Now, all of this really steps into a new place, right? You've really illuminated yourself and allowed yourself to break out of the past experiences and break out of, projecting things into the future that you may not have control over. And it allows you to step into the power that is within you, right? You can come back into that place of confidence within yourself when you're using all these tools and you're actively engaging in conversation, right? Okay, now I can talk to you about this all day. And if you are feeling shy and you are feeling nervous, tell me your exact examples and I will help you move through them. And I want you to really understand that even if you are shy and nervous and awkward, none of that takes away from your worth and value. None of it. You are valuable as you are. And I will champion for that truth to be fully embodied within you until I'm blue in the face, until I'm, 10 feet under the ground. You are valuable. You are worthy as you are. And you have the power to learn and make your life feel good for you, right? Okay. So I want you to go read the blog, watch the videos, do the work, ask me any questions that you may have. I am here to help you, right? So until next time, know that I am holding a place of love for you, where your ability to feel confident in any social dynamic, well, it's undeniable.